Good afternoon and hi to all of our viewers. Welcome to today's webinar entitled Manage Inventory, Sales, and After-Sales Service with Odoo. My name is Angelica, one of the business advisors here for Odoo Asia Pacific region handling Philippine market. Before we start, if you're interested to have a one-on-one demo and personalized system on how we can apply Odoo to your day-to-day operation, feel free to scan this QR code in your screen. So for our topic for today, we will cover 5 key parts to help you better understand Odoo. So first, what is Odoo? I'll give you a quick background of the system, what makes Odoo different from the other platforms out there, and then after that, we'll delve into the reality of the Philippine medical equipment distribution landscape. After that, we'll be proceeding to our case study, and we can open the floor for questions after. So first, let's start. What is Odoo? So Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that is beautifully designed and easy to use. So as you can see here from our screen, it's like a collection of different media applications in your laptop. But each of these modules or applications na tinatawag natin corresponds to a business activity. So Odoo is actually a Belgian-based company and has been present for over 20 years in the business. And usually the good thing about the system is you can access this entire platform using your PC, pwede din namang mobile phone, tablet, or laptop. Alright? So currently, in terms of our global presence, we're present in 19 offices worldwide and we happily onboarded 15 million users in the past. So the way we handle our Filipino projects right now is we're based here in our regional office in Hong Kong, but happy to share as well that we'll be having our own Philippine office starting by next month. So a more local, more on-the-ground support will be sooner for our clients. Okay, so you might be curious who is our clients, particularly in the Philippine market. So moving forward with that, we're happy to be a system of choice for growing industries in the Philippines. So I wanted to highlight here na with Odoo naman, we're not very industry specific and we usually adapt to any business model, whether you're a small business owner, you're a startup company, all the way to this multinational company or conglomerate that you can see here from our screen. Okay, so you might be curious, how did we onboarded these clients in the past? So actually for me, there's actually just 2 type of businesses that we onboarded with Odoo. So number 1 type of business is these are the type of business who has no system at all or karamihan sa mga process nila are still manual, they use pen and paper or kung hindi naman Google Sheets or Excel sheets. So the second type of business is these are the type of business who subscribes to multiple subscription, let's say ERP, to maximize one core feature of the app. Okay, so that's where Odoo enters. So our goal for you is to streamline all of your operations and activities into one single platform para at least you have one source of truth of all of your data, and at the same time, every user or let's say staff na potentially gagamit ng system will be more accountable since every activity that we're doing in the system is recorded and has historical data on it. Okay? So moving forward, these are just some of the questions that you always want to answer sa how Odoo can help your business. So usually before we answer to this one, it's of course with the use of our personalized demo, we wanted you to see how we can use it or apply dun sa day-to-day operations nyo. Alright? And moving forward with that one, these are just some of the applications available when you onboard the system. So kung makikita natin dito, meron tayong sales application, we have website, operations, even HR, or let's say naman sa finance application. Whether for example, what industry you're in, of course you would need a finance application to overall check the financial health of your business. Okay? So delving into the reality of Philippine businesses, particularly in the medical equipment distribution landscape, and mostly these are the type of businesses in the Philippines that heavily relies on selling life-saving technology. So of course, even before you start opening your business, there are a lot of permits and regulatory compliance that you have to comply. So minsan, nakakalimutan nating i-record or wala tayong proper tracking ng mga gastos natin, at the same time revenue, or for example, mga billing reports every time na meron tayong mga technician na nagpo-perform ng mga routine maintenance or kung hindi naman service-based sa mga kliyente natin. And then at the same time, common challenge then for this one is usually for selling high value items. Of course, we need to monitor yung mga expiry dates, mga lot serial numbers, or kumbaga yung mga birth certificate ng mga items that we're selling. Okay, so common challenges as well is a lot of local firms still rely on logbooks, Excel sheets, or manual paperwork every time that they're performing a service with their clients. Okay, so these are just some of the challenges that we've encountered in the past. Okay, so delving into our case study for today, we'll look at the company called Prime Health Equipment, wherein they provide a wide range of medical supplies, from a standard hospital consumables to a high-value machinery. And then at the same time, we all know naman na hindi natatapos dito yung sales cycle, especially if you're the business owner. Kasi minsan, meron pa rin tayong after sales na ginagawa after natin ma-sell yung product. So because they sell different varieties, marami tayong product categories na we have to monitor. Usually, these are just some of the pain points that we've encountered. So it's not you na nagkakaroon tayo ng discrepancy between encoding our total number of stocks wherein mahihirapan tayo at the same time if wala tayong proper monitoring ng number of stocks na we have in our storage or kung hindi naman warehouse. At the same time, yung revenue leakage in a way na may mga services tayo paminsan dun sa actual routine maintenance na hindi natin nabibill yung mga components kasi wala tayong proper tracking or billing report. And then at the same time, scheduling complexity wherein we don't have a proper visibility ng mga schedule ng mga technician na meron tayo on-site who's performing either the routine maintenance, preventive, or for example naman corrective maintenance. So with these gaps, this is wherein streamlining your operations can make your overall operations more efficient by having a more 360 view of your overall operations. Okay? So for today's demo, I'll go for you is to show how you can leverage the following features that I'm going to show you in a minute. Alright, so for our demo for today, we'll be using sales, inventory, and planning. Okay, now let's jump right into our database. Okay, so this is the look of your Odoo database, and this will serve as your everyday dashboard when you use the system. So take note lang din na you can access this entire platform whether you're using it from a laptop perspective, tablet, or for example, I'm the business owner and I just want to check how's my revenue doing. So I can just use it from a mobile phone perspective as long as I have a working internet connection or kung hindi naman mobile data since it just consumes a small amount of bandwidth. Alright, so let's start in our core module, which is the sales, wherein a purchasing officer from Care Plus Diagnostic message us. And usually, they need a new supply of cardiac monitor for their ICU, along with standard order of other hospital supply. So let's just enter here yung name ng client mo. And then at the same time, just select yung mga typical order nila. So they would read a cardiac monitor and then at the same time, typical hospital supplies. So for example, it's going to be a bulk order of our operating gown. And then let's add COVID antigen test kit and then other items as well. So let's go back. And then at the same time, dito sa routine maintenance, we can add this later on. Since for example, every time that we have a sales order with our product, syempre hindi naman natatapos yan and we need to perform preventive maintenance or routine maintenance after. So with this one, we all know that it shows here na red mark, meaning to say we weren't able to push through with this. It's because we're lacking these items from our inventory. So we can just omit this one for now. So with this one, let's just click save. So dito sa sales quotation natin, with just a few clicks, nakakagawa na tayo ng quotation. So let's say Care Plus Diagnostic approves it and okay na sa kanila yung mga products na to. You can actually have two options how you can send the invoice. Okay, so we can just click this button, and then as you can see here, it's also flexible when you send an invoice. So for example, if may discussion tayo na 50% lang muna and then 50% remaining balance, so Odoo provides you that flexibility as well. Let's click this and then confirm. And then the two options that you can do is either sending it via email. So for example, may mga clients tayo na typically, they want to have a proper tracking or documentations ng invoice approval nila. So one of the options that you can do is send it via email. So it will also auto-populate from our chatterbox. Okay, so we can see right here, no, from the get-go, na we were able to perform a sending of an invoice, and it will also show dito sa chat box. So for example, if yung sales admin nyo yung nag-i-issue ng mga invoice, or let's say mga sales order, it will also show their name here. Okay, so this is one of the option. Another option that you can do, we all know in the Philippines, sometimes every time that we're receiving an order, pwedeng yung communication lang natin with our client is Viber or WhatsApp. So what you can do here is just click this gear icon, print, and then invoice PDF with just a few clicks. All right, so you have two options for that one. Okay, so typically hindi lang siya nagiging sales order. So Odoo is already talking to our warehouse team to automatically prepare the shipment. Okay, so when you click pay, so let's just re-register their payment, and then let's go back to our sales order. Okay, so when you look at the smart buttons above, it tells our warehouse team to prepare this shipment, and then we were able to perform the invoice process. Okay, now that we were able to pay na si client, which is the Care Plus Diagnostic, we are now ready to process the delivery. Okay, so what you can do is by going to our inventory dashboard. And this time, let's try to switch hats. So imagine me as your warehouse personnel using the system. So at this time, hindi ko na kailangan maghintay, matawagan, or ma-notify from the sales department because I already have these data available for me. So with this one, when you onboard inventory, it tells you the receiving section and then the delivery order. So orange, it tells us na ito din for today's arrival. At the same time, these are our future shipments. And when you go over to delivery orders, it basically tells you the same logic. So ito yung mga late items that we have to deliver. Ito yung mga for today's order. So let's go to our delivery orders. And then in this one, let's proceed to our sales order. Okay. So with this one, let's just click validate. So what's the logic if we click validate? So usually this tells us na we were able to successfully deliver from our client, and then we were able to dispatch these items from our inventory. Okay, so with this one, what are the other features of inventory management that you can also utilize? So usually by going to this product, if you click product category, it tells us the different product categories that you can have. So from the get-go, you have a viewing of your apparel and linen, clinic hospital equipment, all the way to the other SKUs that you're selling. So when you click, for example, dito sa cardiac monitor natin, you can see here na we're tracking the item per unique serial number. Since it's a high value item, so of course ito yung mga common bottlenecks na we don't want to overstock so much, pero at the same time, we don't want to be left out of stock at the end. Okay, so we also have smart buttons available. So dito sa 3 units available natin, if you want to have a proper tracking, or let's say birth certificate ng item mo, you can just click this and it will show you the data or their unique serial number. Okay, so meron din tayo ditong minimum and maximum reordering rule, which guide us in terms of our replenishment process. And then for example, since currently for a cardiac monitor, we're tracking it per SKU, you can see here the 7 units. So if you want to check kanino ko ba na-deploy or na-deliver yung mga items na to in the past, you have these data available. So dito yung currently or yung recent natin is si Care Plus Diagnostic. And then you can also see the total value of what you've sold so far for this specific item. Okay, so another reporting feature that I would also want to share is the reporting by going to our stocks. So if you're curious to know how much do I have currently left in my inventory, so these data will tell you otherwise. So meron tayong total unit cost, meron tayong on hand, free to use, and also the outgoing items. If you go to moves history, it tells us the ins and outs of our stocks or movements in the warehouse. Okay, so real-time makikita natin yung mga data na available. Alright, so with this one, let's go over naman sa other module. So this time, fast forward tayo. 6 months have passed since we delivered the cardiac monitor. So tumawag ngayon sa atin si Care Plus Diagnostic para sa kanilang routine maintenance. So what we can do here is by going to planning. And dito pumapasok actually yung isa sa mga main pain points ng marami ring distributors, wherein yung mga manual assigning ng mga technicians nila sa field. But with Odoo planning, by just opening the module, you can actually see the availability of your various technicians in your stack. Okay, so with this one, let's connect it to our client earlier. So I just want to assign si Mark for this routine maintenance. Role is the on-site technician. Let's connect it to our sales order earlier, just the routine maintenance. Okay, so let's schedule this by Friday, for example. Apply. And then in this case, when you click save, Mark will be able to know na, okay, I'm in charge of performing the routine maintenance for this client by just clicking send. So usually Mark would know from his mobile phone or tablet na they're assigned for these clients and for Friday of performing the routine maintenance. Okay, so with this one, the cycle repeats. So for example, when you go to your sales order, it shows you the one billing of we had earlier, pero at the same time, for some reason, sometimes, diba, all the way pag chine-check yung technician or pag nandun na siya sa field and nag-check na siya ng mga routine maintenance, minsan meron tayo mga napapansin na frayed or let's say medyo pasira na items or components do sa machine na nire-repair. So usually there's a separate billing that we have to do on top of the first billing that we had earlier. So usually you're imbes na tumawag pa si Mark dun sa office para mag-request for example ng mga manual quotation, he can just use his phone or tablet. So what you can do here is by going to this invoice, create an invoice, and then by going to this let's go back to this one, and then we can just add here from this pay. Okay, let's go back, then sales order, then we can create another invoice. Okay, okay, so it shows here as well yung kaninang pinerform natin na sales order, and then usually Mark would just need to add another invoice on top of it to add the components or yung spare parts natin earlier. Okay, so actually the cycle repeats when you go to planning. So usually when they just need to open it and they would know kung kanino sila naka-assign and to what customer. Okay, so the cycle repeats, no? So from the sales order to the inventory management all the way to the planning application. This allows us to streamline the entire cycle process and preparing the general report over the total billing. Okay, so usually the last thing that I also wanted to show you as a bonus feature is our Odoo dashboard. So usually the use of our Odoo dashboard is to consolidate all of your business operations into one single platform, which shows you the different application. So for example, if I am the owner and I would just need to check my revenue for the day, so I would just go to Odoo dashboard and I have all of the source of truth of all of my revenue. Who are my top customers? What are my top products from the last 30 days, last 90 days, or let's say last 7 days? So these products or these data analysis will provide you when you onboard the platform. So pwede rin for example per product. So as you can see here, yung cardiac monitor natin yung bestseller from the last 30 days, and you can actually just click the filtering section on what type of report you want to see. Pwede rin for example sa logistics purpose. Alright, so with this one, that would be all for our quick simulation of our product demonstration. Let's now go over to our demo recap. Okay, so to quickly summarize our product demonstration, we were able to learn how we can optimize our inventory and supply chain process by having a proper unique serial number and at the same time replenishment process and data analysis on how many units sold we were able to have per item or per product. At the same time, 100% billing accuracy wherein sa planning application, it's also interconnected dun sa sales module that we have earlier. Every time that we're billing a client, or at the same time naman, may mga proper tools din tayo to also settle our vendor bills. So that's actually a separate module with Odoo para at least balance natin yung cash flow or how we want to check the financial health of the business. Okay, at the same time, automated scheduling. So kanina, by just using the planning application and dun sa mga users or on-site technicians, they would have a proper tracking of their scheduling process and at the same time, kung kaninong customer sila naka-assign. And with over 70 plus running application, there's actually more that we can do with Odoo. So well, actually, I prepared a medical industry focus. Take note lang na this workflow is also the best practice that we have for any business with after-sales operation, including HVAC, home appliances, cleaning services, and other industrial machinery sectors. Okay? So right now, we can now open the floor for questions we can have. Okay, let me just check our questions. Meron bang real-time data kung ano yung mga items na pinupull out namin sa warehouse? Yes, correct. So usually with the Odoo inventory module, when you go to the reporting feature, you have the moves history feature wherein you can see the proper in and outs and kung what time pinull out or for example, ni-receive natin from our warehouse. So yes, that's possible. Okay. I have many suppliers per product. How to use the system if magkakaiba yung pricing nila? So usually we would need to define first yung mga supplier nyo and at the same time yung mga product or yung mga pricing nila before natin sila actually for example ilagay with Odoo. So for example, if meron tayong preferred na supplier, these are going to show dun sa default accounting natin which shows kung sino yung unang supplier na dapat nating piliin every time na we're sending an RFQ. Naka-integrate ba ang sales report sa inventory para malaman ko ang profit margin ko sa bawat item? Yes, this is possible as long as properly configured yung sales price natin or yung and at the same time yung cost price. Since sa reporting feature, that's wherein we can know yung profit natin or for example, the net sales that we have. Okay. Okay, how can we monitor kung gaano katagal ma-resolve ng staff ang isang complaint ng warranty claim? So usually for this, how we can go about this is with the use of our help desk module wherein meron tayong feature na tinatawag na service level agreement. So for example, pwede tayong mag-set ng target. So halimbawa, meron tayong complaint or ticket. So dapat yung customer service natin within 3 to 4 hours na resolve na yung ticket na to. Or for example naman, via help desk module, meron tayong color coding system which shows na, for example, for red, ito yung mga tickets na delayed nating, for example, na-receive or at the same time, for green naman, ito yung mga on-time na complaints that we were able to resolve. Okay, what are the few questions we have? Does the system provides forecast report? Yes, this is possible via our inventory module as well. Paano kung isang set or bundle yung binili ng customer? So let's say cardiac monitor pero magkakahiwalay na parts ang nasa inventory namin. Paano sila mababawasan? So normally for this one, how we can go about this is by using a bill of materials to ensure na under the manufacturing or inventory kit feature. So for example, kapag binenta natin yung cardiac monitor, what's gonna appear dun sa resibo or the receipt will be the total kit ng cardiac monitor. But how we can deduct this from our inventory is spare parts or components. So usually with the help of our bill of materials or manufacturing module. Okay, we can answer a few more questions. How do you translate sales data into accounting report? So usually for this one, we have a specific Odoo accounting module for that one. So every time na meron tayo mga sales and we were able to successfully reconcile different sales order from different customers, automatically it will also populate our Odoo accounting, whether the type of report that you want to see, is it a P&L? Is it a cash flow or is it, for example, a balance sheet? So as long as you're using the system, it will also show directly or automated directly from our Odoo accounting. Okay. Can I use Odoo without downloading the app on my computer? Yes, this is possible since we're hosted through Odoo Cloud. So web browser, as long as you can use it as well in web browser perspective. Okay. Mayroon po ba per stock doon sa system? Yes, this is possible with Odoo Inventory. So, kung makikita natin kanina, naka-product categories siya. And then, at the same time, per product kasi or SKU, we would need to define how many stocks meron tayo per SKU or per product. So, as long as we have a proper tracking or valuation method as well, we can probably automate this in one way. Okay, so it looks like we have no more time to address other questions. But if you're interested to having a better sales or inventory management, or if you have any further questions about our session today, feel free to shoot me an email at anpe.odoo.com or book a quick follow-up on my calendar by scanning this QR code on your screen. Okay? So, thank you for joining us today and I hope may natutunan kayo for today's webinar. Have a good one.